Next on WCCO Mornings, an update on Operation Metro Surge, when we expect to hear from Border Czar Tom Homan.
Then new developments from the Minnesota Department of Corrections, the claims I should say they're making about ICE, as they say collaboration between prisoners and DHS is not happening.
Plus, a new directive for federal agents to wear body cameras, but do they really make a difference? We're going to take a closer look.
And later, the kickoff to the midterm election season in Minnesota. It is here. The latest details and results from last night's caucuses. A lot to get to. Good morning. Welcome to WCCO Mornings. We're streaming live on CBS News Minnesota. I'm AJ Hilton.
And I'm Heather Brown. Thanks for being on the stream with us. Happening today. It's happening expected in just about an hour. We'll hear from Border Czar Tom Homan. Now, he arrived in Minnesota last week. We do expect an update on Operation Metro Surge during today's press conference, which is scheduled for 8 a.m. Homan last week discussed a possible drawdown in federal enforcement in Minnesota. You can stream that right here on our free streaming channel, CBS News Minnesota.
Now to the latest from the live desk. Maria Lisignoli is joining us because Minnesota's Department of Corrections and the feds, they are not on the same page, Maria.
Yeah, that's right. Corrections Commissioner Paul Schnell says more than 100 non-citizens currently in Minnesota custody do not have federal immigration detainers on them. He says this is despite the state notifying the Department of Homeland Security about them. Now, detainers are administrative requests, not criminal warrants, that ICE sends to a state prison or county jail, asking to be notified before a person is released. According to Schnell, the state carried out a review of its prison population and found 380 non-U.S. citizens are in state custody. Of them, there are 110 people the federal government could have placed a detainer on, but did not. He argues this lack of action undercuts claims from federal officials that Minnesota is blocking access to its prisons. It's the same message he shared when we heard from him 2 weeks ago.
It is fundamentally false. We cooperate with ICE and ICE detainers. We have, as a matter of policy, done that.
To Operation Metro Surge.
All right, Maria Lisignoli for us from the live desk. Thank you.
You're being detained for
Associated Press is reporting that this arrest right here, it happened yesterday morning in South Minneapolis. Now, during the interaction, agents drew their guns at people inside a car, and as you can see, it appears they're not wearing body cameras.
On Monday, Secretary Noem said, quote, effective immediately, we are deploying body cameras to every officer in the field in Minneapolis, end quote. But court documents say that could take up to 6 months. In those same documents, the St. Paul ICE field office director said they would need at least 180 days to set up software, equipment, and training protocols for around 2,000 agents.
And President Trump has praised the decision to outfit federal officers with body cameras. It's a move that's meant to bring more accountability to the operation that's happening here. In this morning's Good Question, Jeff Wagner explores whether that technology has actually made a difference in law enforcement encounters.
You got the driver's license and insurance for me?
What was once new technology for law enforcement over a decade ago now feels like standard practice.
82% of police departments in the U.S. equip their officers with body cameras, and that number is from 2023, meaning that number could be even higher by now. With so many departments deploying the technology, we wanted to know, do body cameras improve policing? Good question.
It's kind of a game changer in what is expected of us from the public.
Deputy Chief Damon Bitney is with the Bloomington Police Department, which has used body cameras since 2019.
We're able to use our own videos to assist in training our officers. Things that went really well, things that we could improve upon. And so those are the things that I think, when it's used correctly, meaning the tool of body cams or dash cameras, they're invaluable.
Using the recordings to train officers could improve policing, but the main word we often hear with these cameras is accountability.
When people talk about accountability, what they're basically asking, or at least how we interpret it as this, is that, hey, are you trying to hide anything? And our position is we're not.
The little lens can be an objective witness, watching and listening to police interactions to potentially spot misconduct or prevent it by changing an officer's behavior. So have the cameras in that way improved policing? The answer is unclear.
A few years ago, the Department of Justice reviewed 70 studies on body-worn cameras. The analysis found inconsistent or no statistically significant effects from the cameras when it comes to use of force, assaults on officers, arrests, and traffic stops and tickets.
That blanket statement, however, would be unfair to the departments that did see a difference from using body cameras.
Studies done for Boston PD in Massachusetts, Las Vegas PD in Nevada, and Rialto PD in California all cited a drop in citizen complaints and use of force reports once body cameras were adopted. In fact, a University of Chicago analysis found that departments using body cams saw a 10% drop in all use of force encounters. While the results on policing appear mixed, the ability of cameras to gather evidence remains a vital tool.
But I think that's some of the good stuff, is it just shows an overall picture of kind of what happened at an incident or a scene.
With photojournalist Jose Pascual, Jeff Wagner, WCCO News.
2021 survey found that more than 100 police departments in Minnesota use body cameras. Burnsville became the first city to adopt the technology. That was back in 2010.
A new wave of departures is rippling through the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Minnesota. Sources say more federal prosecutors have resigned over mounting frustrations with the ICE search. This is on top of the 6 attorneys who left the office last month, including the point man on fraud. Right now, coming up on 7:07, let's check in with next weather meteorologist Joseph Dames, because Joseph, you're tracking it right now. It looks like some snow moving into the metro.
Yeah, some snow. It's not going to be a big portion of our overall weather story as we look forward out the next 5 to 7 days. But for your morning, yeah, definitely could be a problem in some spots because that snow has been coming down for a little while, and it's going to be very, very patchy. We knew we were going to have this weak disturbance moving through this morning, and I think it's still mainly going to be west of 35, but down in the south metro area, if we continue this trend and the snow continues to fall, then we may even see a little bit of snow along the 35 corridor. I would say let's zoom on in and show you a couple spots where it might be coming down a little bit more than others. I mean, out towards Medina right now, you might be seeing some very light snow and extending up to about Fletcher, and then down to the southwest, maybe a couple flurries there in Delano. Again, nothing significant at this hour. Waconia, some light snow extending all the way down to about New Auburn there. This is moving southeast. As we go for like the next hour and a half, these conditions start drying up, and then the rest of the day is smooth sailing. We get up to about mid-20s this afternoon, but instead of that line going back down when the sun sets and we head into the overnight hours and we go down to like the single digits where our average is, we're going to stay in the 20s. So our temperatures are actually going to float there right in the mid-20s, lower to mid-20s through the overnight hours, which is going to feel quite comfortable. Right now it's 15.5 in Hinckley and 5 below in Rice Lake. Overall, we are much warmer right now than we were yesterday morning, for the exception of some areas there in Wisconsin. As I mentioned today, a high of about 25 degrees and another chance for maybe some very light precipitation late tonight. So we may be talking about this again tomorrow morning as far as the snow goes, but there's a difference in the system moving in tomorrow, and that might be some freezing rain as well. So I will talk more about that coming up at 7:30.
All right, Joseph, sounds good. Well, you just mentioned snow falling. Let's take you up to the St. Cloud area. You can see you got some fresh snow on the ground up in the St. Cloud area, and this is slowly making its way here to the metro. The good news here on the metro map, take a look here. We are not following anything significant that's going to slow you down, which is good news. And the snow hasn't necessarily started falling here just yet. For example, let's take you down to the Maple Grove area. So as we come into the metro area, you can see 494 at Bass Lake Road. It is clear, which is definitely good news. Also, a beautiful sunrise. We showed you this just before the 7 o'clock hour over in New Brighton. Take a look at this view. 694 at Silver Lake Road. Expected to get some snow possibly a little later on, but with good news, the road conditions look good right now.
That our parents were working with immigration lawyers to try to, for the residency, to get the residency, and they were in the process of doing that.
They paid thousands of dollars, by the way, for this stuff. And 5 days before, 5 days before they got detained, our dad sent us the case number saying that they got approved so they can get processed for their naturalization.
And then this.
So we have an update to the story of those 3 sisters. They told us about ICE taking their parents on the way to work.
Our Susan Elizabeth Littlefield shows us what happened next.
We were happy. We were happy because now, they're home.
But for this tight family, even happiness is complicated.
I'm like confused just because, anger because I feel like this was so wrong, and The way they went about it was so wrong.
The couple was pulled over in Inver Grove Heights 3 weeks ago on their way to work. They own a custodial company. Cecilia says that they had their papers proving they were in the process of becoming residents. They did not have criminal records, as WCCO confirmed.
Like worst of the worst.
I'm like, that's not true. That's not true. My parents are good people.
They ended up here in separate parts of this El Paso detention center. She says they were treated fairly with food and shelter, but quarters were tight.
My mom said at one point there was like 30 people in one room, and so they didn't like have a lot of beds either.
After a few weeks, they were sent to Sherburne County, and after the sisters worked furiously with lawyers, they got out on bond.
And now that she was in front of us, like all of that had just lifted and we could finally breathe. Lots of tears, lots of sadness, but lots of happiness and hope. Hope that like, you know, things could get better.
And this is the moment her dad got to see his grandson.
What did you say when you saw your parents?
Our dad, when he like got home, he gave us all a hug and he said, "You guys are my warriors," because we fought every single day for them. I'm just happy that they're back.
Susan Elizabeth Littlefield, WCCO News.
Cecilia says both of her parents' citizenship cases are still pending.
Still to come, concerns still linger after an Amber Alert 2 weeks ago in Zimmerman.
I'll tell you why investigators believe there could be more victims and the pros and cons of social media in cases like these.
And later, what we are learning this morning from a GOP straw poll after caucuses kicked off midterm election season. As the world watches the events unfolding in Minneapolis, journalism students at the University of Minnesota focus on learning new lessons. Photojournalist Nick Luneman and Jeff Wagner have more.
APM have had like a ton out so far.
This group of journalism students at the University of Minnesota found themselves training for scenarios they never expected to face in college.
Well, it was a little disconcerting, honestly, to be talking about tourniquets and dressing bullet wounds with 21-year-olds.
The hostile environment and first aid training mirrors what professional journalists in war zones receive before heading into the field.
On the other hand, I would much rather have them be prepared, given the climate.
The training is optional, and students decide for themselves how far they're willing to go.
Some students have just been like, send me out, coach. And others have been like, I'm cool, this is not my scene. And that's fine.
I think information is power, and I think that the more information and the more we're being taught how to navigate potentially those situations that we're in, how to protect our rights as journalists.
For students like senior Hannah Reynolds who choose to take part, the experience raised questions about what the job requires and where the line is.
I never imagined myself learning how to patch a bullet wound.
Expecting the unexpected while remaining professional.
No story is worth dying over.
Whether you're a student journalist right now or you're a professional with decades of experience, you're getting thrust into this scenario that is volatile for everyone involved.
We as journalists are people, and I think it's really important that we remember that we are people first and storytellers second.
At the University of Minnesota with photojournalist Nick Luneman, Jeff Wagner, WCCO News.
Along with the training put on by Crisis Post Media, the school also provides safety guidelines for students who choose to report in the field. Well, here we are, still months away from electing a new governor of Minnesota, but party caucuses kick off the midterm election season just last night. And according to the DFL, there were at least 30,000 people who came out from all over the state, which they called historic numbers. The big question going into last night was who out of the 13 GOP candidates would win the GOP straw poll. So here's a look at the vote totals with 71% reporting. Speaker Lisa Demuth is in first, businessman Kendall Qualls in a close second, Mike Lindale trailing in third. This was what we expected. Those three have all led in almost all the smaller county straw polls leading up to last night. And here's Esme Murphy with more.
Anyone need a ballot? Both GOP and DFL caucuses move quickly.
I will tell you where you need to be.
Even with Senator Amy Klobuchar expected to win the DFL straw poll in a landslide, Democrats packed this multi-precinct caucus site at Washburn High School. Across town at Minnetonka High School, Republicans were unhappy with the state of the state.
I've never liked politics. I've never been involved in politics, but I despise the way our state has become.
I do business all over the country, and the whole nation asks me on a daily basis, what in the world is going on in your city and state?
And the GOP party chair voiced optimism that 2026 will be the end of a 20-year drought on winning a statewide office.
We always stay optimistic, don't we? We've got some really good, legitimate issues to campaign on. We're going to continue to pound the drum on that.
Esme Murphy, WCCO News.
Of course, this is just the start of the selection process. Both parties will have their nominating conventions at the end of May. Then candidates can decide to move on to a party primary come August. Minnesota House Speaker Lisa Demuth did release a statement in response to last night's results, saying in part, quote, "I'm just 3 months since I announced my campaign for governor. Our team has focused our efforts on organizing and empowering Minnesotans who are looking for a strong conservative and proven leader to get our state back on track after 2 disastrous terms of Tim Walz. We know Amy Klobuchar would give us nothing more than a rubber stamp Walz's 3rd term," end quote. New this morning, a driver has been arrested accused of hitting and killing a pedestrian last night in St. Paul's Como neighborhood. So this is coming from police. Officers arrived to the intersection for Front Avenue and Grotto Street North after a report of a pedestrian being hit. When they got there, they found a man with severe head injuries. That man later died at the scene. The driver was not there when police arrived, but was found, taken into custody quickly. The incident is still under investigation. And investigators believe there could be more victims. Nearly 2 weeks after a 7-year-old's abduction triggered a frantic search both north and south of the Twin Cities. They discovered the suspect was offering daycare services on social media. And these new details come as several agencies continue to look into the child abduction. And now they're looking for anyone who employed that suspect to come forward. Uba Ali has more.
2 weeks ago, an Amber Alert went out for a young girl. 28-year-old Joseph Bragg is charged with 1 count each of kidnapping and criminal sexual conduct, court documents show. Investigators say Bragg took the girl after she got off her school bus near her home. She was found about 2 hours south from Zimmerman in the city of Albert Lea. According to the complaint, the girl's mother told investigators she communicated with Bragg on Facebook, and he asked if anyone in the Zimmerman area was looking for child care services. While not connected to this case, Allison Fay with the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center says stranger abductions are rare, but social media can create risks.
When people are trying to gain access to kids, this is a tool that they try to use.
The Sherburne County Sheriff's Office believe Bragg may have used social media to offer nanny or child care services to others. They want to speak to anyone who may have employed him. Court records also show a prior restraining order filed by another man, keeping Bragg away from his children. Faye says parents should be cautious of anyone trying to separate a child from their safety net, especially if someone seems unusually interested in their children. She says offenders need 3 things to cause harm: access to kids, time alone, and skill.
In this case, it looked to be one of those cases where he was trying to get access to kids.
Uba Ali, WCCO News.
And anyone with information is asked to call the BCA at the number it is at the bottom of your screen, 651-793-2465. We know many immigrant-owned businesses say they felt the economic impact of ICE operations in Minnesota, but a new survey shows the hardships they're facing, and they're far-reaching. Still to come, how cancellations, fear, and low staffing is impacting all kinds of services. And later, a look at this week's Women in Sports, where a veteran player in the WNBA and a Minnesota native is making it her mission to help out the next generation.
watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Hey, happy Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. Joseph Dames will check in with your next weather forecast in a second. I want to start with Minneapolis City Council, which will consider a move that could help those facing evictions as Operation Metro Search continues. So this afternoon, we'll hear from city council members who are supporting a proposal to delay evictions while ICE activity continues in Minnesota. The proposal would allocate $1 million for rental assistance to support families impacted by immigration enforcement. The council will vote tomorrow morning on those measures. Your next drive, for the most part, looks pretty good. Only one crash we're following. That's going to be in the Plymouth area on 494. This is southbound traffic that's coming into the metro area. Take a look here. Looks like we got a couple of vehicles. One vehicle that's being pulled out of the ditch off to the side of the road, creating a little bit of a backup this morning. So if you're coming in from Maple Grove using 494, you see that backup underneath the overpass there. Give yourself some extra time. And Joseph, I know you're tracking some snow moving into the metro.
Yeah, there's definitely some snow around the area. Not much, obviously, coming from our station right here next Weather Tower is red, because the bigger story is going to be the warm-up that's on the way, but just watch out for some light snow, especially the west metro area. 15 degrees coming out of the cities right now. That snow, you can see it right here on our radar. It's quite weak, and so if you get anything, it's going to be maybe just a burst here or there, just a little something on the roads. Last I looked, we did have a little bit of snow on the ground towards Medina, and then down to the southwest here as well. We'll have updates coming up at 7:30. See you there.
You're watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Next on WCCO Mornings, with increased ice activity in Minnesota comes economic impacts. Just how far-reaching these struggles have spread.
Then we hear the emotional testimony in Washington, D.C. from the brothers of Renee Good, who was shot and killed by ICE agents.
Plus, the Columbia Heights student who was soon released from ICE custody in Texas as 4 remain in custody.
And later, new details on the search for a TV star's missing mother, what investigators say they found in her home that has them concerned.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday. I'm A.J. Hilton.
And I'm Heather Brown.
Happening today in about half an hour, we are expecting to hear from Border Czar Tom Homan. He arrived in Minnesota last week, and at today's press conference, we do expect to get updates on Operation Metro Surge. Last week, Homan discussed a possible drawdown in federal enforcement in Minnesota. We know he'll be speaking at 8 a.m. today. You can watch his whole speech right here on our free streaming channel, right here on CBS News Minnesota. Now, the Trump administration has accused the state of Minnesota of not honoring detainer requests from ICE. That's something Corrections Commissioner Paul Schnell has strongly denied.
In fact, Schnell says more than 100 non-citizens currently in Minnesota custody do not have federal immigration detainers on them. He says this is despite the state notifying the feds about them. Now, detainers are administrative requests. They're not criminal warrants that ICE sends to a state prison or a county jail, and it asks that ICE be notified before a person is released. According to Schnell, the state carried out a review of its prison population. They found 380 non-U.S. citizens are in state custody. Of them, there are 110 people in the federal government could have placed on a detainer, but did not. He argues it's this lack of action undercutting claims from federal officials that Minnesota is blocking access to prisons. Schnell saying, quote, when they say, let us into your prisons, our response is, we are notifying you, and you're not even requesting everyone you could. Also saying collaboration, conversations, working together to know who those targets are. That does make good sense, and that has not happened to date. CBS News has reached out to DHS for comment. We did not hear back. Now, that is the story for our state prisons. It's a different story when it comes to county jails. Cooperation between local jails and ICE, that really varies widely across Minnesota.
And as we've reported, several counties have agreements on some level with federal immigration, either housing inmates or helping ICE operations. But many, including some of the state's biggest counties, don't have that cooperation. And that's something federal officials say has contributed to Operation Metro Surge. And new this morning, the Ramsey County Board denounced what it calls aggressive tactics used by federal agents in Operation Metro Surge. This was a unanimous vote. The Ramsey County Board called for an independent investigation of the, quote, preventable and brutal killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Commissioners also directed the county manager to continue the county's response to Operation Metro Surge. That includes things like providing eviction prevention and food security, virtual options of county services, and more.
Brothers of Renee Good gave emotional testimony. This was on Capitol Hill yesterday following the killing of their sister last month by a federal agent.
The deep distress our family feels because of Renee's loss is in such a violent and unnecessary way is complicated by feelings of disbelief.
This was the first time that we've heard from Good's siblings since that fatal shooting last month. They say their family is consumed with grief, and they described their, quote, desperation to see a change in ICE tactics. Yesterday was also the first time that we heard from Aliyah Rahman, who says that she has autism and a traumatic brain injury. She says that she was on her way to a medical appointment when agents surrounded her car on all sides, giving conflicting instructions. Rahman described conditions at the Whipple Federal Building where detainees are held as, quote, horrific.
Approaching the Whipple Center, I saw black and brown bodies shackled together, chained together, being marched by yelling agents outdoors. I continue to hear the word bodies because that is how agents refer to us. We're bringing in a body. They're bringing in bodies, 7, 8 at a time. Where do I put them? We can't use that room. There's already a body in there. You have no reason to believe you will make it out alive if you are already being called a body.
Rahman told lawmakers on Capitol Hill that she no longer can lift her arms normally, that she was never told to show an ID. She was never read her rights, she says, or told she was under arrest. Ultimately, she says she was not charged with a crime. We also reached out to DHS for comment about the conditions at Whipple, but have not yet heard back.
We don't know how many others
are in the same situation that didn't get a photo that went viral.
The governor is talking about this photo of 5-year-old Liam Ramos. He and his dad are back in Minnesota after nearly 2 weeks at a detention center in Texas. Just yesterday, Governor Walz says he wrote Secretary Noem demanding to know how many kids are in detention centers, where, why, and details about their rights to due process. Liam goes to school in Columbia Heights, and yesterday the school district said 4 other students are still in federal custody. But late last night, we did learn that one of them will be released.
That student is Elizabeth Zuna. She's a 4th grader who the district says was detained with her mother last month while they were on their way to school.
Of Elizabeth's father will stay with me forever. I watched him sit in his car, bury his head in his hands, and cry uncontrollably.
The Columbia Heights superintendent says that both Elizabeth and her mom will be released from the detention facility in Dilley, Texas. That timeline, though, unclear because of a measles outbreak there. Now, the federal immigration surge has had a deep impact here on the Minnesota economy.
Meet Minneapolis says a recent survey sent to its partners found 80% of respondents have experienced, canceled, postponed, or reduced bookings for sales in the wake of ICE surge. The tourism organization says its more than 100 survey responses include restaurants, hotels, retail shops, service providers, arts and event organizers. Just shy of 75% of responses say absenteeism is affecting operations.
We know that everyone has their own personal kind of decisions that they have to make for their family right now. But for those that feel that they can move about the city safely and those that have the means to do so, we're really encouraging to help support these small businesses right now.
In an effort to boost business, Meet Minneapolis recently announced the Minneapolis for Minneapolis campaign, inviting people to do things like shop locally, visit neighborhood restaurants, and tip generously. If you'd like some more information, you can head to our website, WCCO.com. And businesses across the river in St. Paul say they're feeling the impacts of Operation Metro Surge 2, and a community grant aims to help them stay afloat.
The Latino Economic Development Center says that they are offering grant money to immigrant-owned businesses. In just the last two days, 200 people have applied. El Guanaco is one of the places that's seeing far fewer customers. Employees are concerned. They have closed one of their 5 locations.
It's very stressful to write a check to pay a supplier for your basic materials, only to realize you might not have the funds to cover it.
Margarita is originally from El Salvador. She has been in the U.S. for more than 20 years. She says she has 5 locations in the Twin Cities, but one is closed. Says her focus is now to keep that business up and running.
It's 7:38, and we do need to swing back in, check in with Joseph Dames, our next weather meteorologist, tracking a little bit of precip in the area.
Yeah, it's not much, though. It's not much, but you may get some light snow here early this morning. We've been tracking this for the last couple of hours, and I still believe 8 to the 9 a.m. hour, things are really going to be slowing on down, even drying up a bit. And that's what we're kind of noticing right now here in western Hennepin County. So not a lot of snow out there this morning. Where it may be coming down a little heavier is down towards Belle Plaine there off of 169. And then up towards maybe Dahlgren there on 212. Other than that, it's really not going to be a large impact for us. There's a few snow systems that are going to try to impact the area over the next couple of days, and they're all going to kind of do the same thing for the exception of maybe some portions of western Wisconsin tomorrow. The next system's up to the northwest. That's going to come sweeping through late tonight, and then there'll be another one Thursday night into Friday. And in between those systems, we're actually going to see the temperatures build. All right, so that's why our next weather tower right now is red, because we're going to get warmer. This afternoon, I'm going with a high of about 24 to 25 degrees. There will be some sun breaks as we get into the afternoon, but when I say breaks, I mean just like a few. Okay, we're going to have more clouds today than actual sunshine, but I am hopeful for at least a moment here or there where it can maybe invite the sun for just a little bit. Here's the overnight hours. In fact, it's 1 a.m., so a little after midnight there, you may start seeing some snow in western Wisconsin up through the North Shore, and models are even indicating maybe some very light snow around here. I just don't see that coming to fruition all that much, especially down to the southwest. I think it's just going to be too dry, but that is something that we'll have to monitor. Maybe we'll wake up to, a trace of some snow on the ground. A better chance for snow is going to be in western Wisconsin. It's going to be more damp there. There's going to be more moisture to work with, and there's going to be better forcing, meaning better opportunities to see snow form and actually get down to the surface. So that's where we'll be watching early tomorrow morning, I believe. Look what happens, though, tomorrow afternoon. Into the upper 30s. Clouds still around, though. Some clearing going out west. And if it clears out, you may even see temperatures warming up into the lower to mid 40s. I think that's a possibility in Marshall and Worthington. Okay, here comes that second disturbance overnight Thursday into Friday. Again, more of an impact for western Wisconsin. And this time around, maybe a wintry mix with some freezing drizzle or freezing rain. So we'll have to monitor those western communities there in Wisconsin Friday morning as well. We take a bit of a hit behind that on Saturday. Temperatures back down into the 20s there. A little bit of sunshine in the forecast. But then it looks like we're trending back to mid to upper 30s Sunday through Tuesday. And I mentioned this yesterday with warmer temperatures, more moisture, and probably more cloud cover. All right, we're not going to have the clear blue skies like we did during the cold days, but we should have little peaks of sunshine here or there over the next 7.
Thanks. Take a look now at your next drive. Things looking pretty typical for Wednesday morning here at this time. You see some of the busy spots starting to get busy. No crashes to report right now. I do want to take you down, though, to the Burnsville area. This is in the red on the map, but you can see traffic moving along nicely. Consider this a typical Wednesday morning commute.
National headlines we're following this morning include the frantic search that continues for Today Show host Savannah Guthrie's mother as new leads are being investigated.
Authorities say they believe 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was abducted from her Tucson, Arizona home. This was sometime between late Saturday night and into early Sunday morning. Sheriff's Department tells CBS News that it is investigating a possible ransom note, which was sent to a local TV station and turned over to police. In that note, there are specific details about Guthrie, like what she was wearing, but the authenticity has not been confirmed. Cameras also captured what appeared to be blood outside and inside the house. The most recent release of documents related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein included sensitive information about victims, and now a resolution has been reached.
The lawyers representing the victims of Epstein had deep discussions with the Department of Justice regarding the agency's redaction failures. Court documents say the attorneys believe the issues will be corrected quickly. The deal came the night before a court hearing on the matter was scheduled, but the documents did not specify what steps will be taken by the Department of Justice.
President Trump is calling a newly passed government funding bill a, quote, great victory for the American people. President signing that bill into law yesterday. This ended that partial government shutdown, which had began on Saturday. This new legislation funds the Department of Homeland Security for less than 2 weeks, so that gives lawmakers some time to negotiate reforms to ICE. The rest of the legislation includes 5 full-year spending bills.
Still to come, another update on today's weather and more of this morning's top headlines. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The Olympics start on Friday. U.S. women's curling team features sisters Tabitha and Tara Peterson. They're both from right here in Minneapolis. Ryan Clayton paid them a visit ahead of the big event.
Getting dialed while balancing everything. For Olympic curler Tara Peterson, every day is crucial.
Trying to catch up on things, work a little bit, be a mother as well, still practice, and just get ready for what's next.
Though the schedule is hectic and the goal is a gold medal,
Really good weight, Tab.
there's still time for Tuesday league nights at St. Paul Curling Club.
We always joke, like, someone has to die to get into that league. That's why we've been in it for so long. And that's just the cool thing about the sport of curling, is that your average Joe is playing against Olympians, and we're friends. And after the game, we sit down, we have dinner, we have a beer.
Tara is part of Team Peterson, named for older sister Tabitha, the skip of the U.S. team that recently qualified for the Olympics.
Seems like a bullet. Should be perfect.
They're laser focused on the Milan Cortina Games.
I have to just think about it as it's just another tournament. It's another competition, and try not to focus like, oh my God, we're at the Olympics.
What do you say to people that are like, oh, if I trained for a year, I could go to the Olympics?
I kind of laugh because then once those people actually get on the ice, they go, oh crap, that is way harder than I thought.
The sisters have been curling since they were little. Now in their 30s with normal jobs and growing families.
It's really fun having babies the same age because we can just hang out, and then the babies can get some socialization and play together, and we get a little relief.
Are the babies the future curling team or what?
Yeah.
Obviously.
A pair of 1-year-olds have joined Team Peterson. They'll be in Italy too. The Olympic Games serving as a marker of time.
It just changes your whole perspective. It changes your whole life. So, yeah, I'm excited for this Olympics for a lot of reasons.
Ren Clayton, WCCO Sports.
Well, good luck to them. Also coming out today, our Women in Sports podcast conversation continues on the road this week from Florida. This week's guest is Rachel Bannum, WNBA veteran player. She is now spending her offseason playing in the 3-on-3 Unrivaled League down in Miami. Bannum, a Lakeville native. She's also a stand-up for the Gophers, played for the Lynx for part of her pro career. Now she's playing for the Chicago Sky. She shares how life-changing this opportunity is for her to play in Unrivaled.
I love being in Minnesota. I like being able to stay in my community as much as I can. So this gave me the opportunity to still do stuff in my community and then spend 2 months or so in Miami hooping with the best people in the world. And I'm making almost double what I made this summer in WNBA. So it's like, how do you say no to that? You know, and it's just such a good opportunity for me to continue to find myself and get better and make these amazing relationships and connections that will last way longer than me playing basketball.
You could listen to the full conversation with Rachel Bannum right now on Women in Sports Podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can also watch it on YouTube. Let's take a look outside. See that next weather tower shining red this morning. Let's check in with Joseph.
Halfway through the week, here we are on our Wednesday, and a forecast that's going to be a little bit warmer than the last few days. Temperatures building into the mid-20s. Now, through the morning hours, maybe a few isolated patchy snow spots, but that dries up, and we should be good for the remainder of the day. We will have clouds around, mostly cloudy, though I'm hopeful for a few peaks of sunshine as we go into early afternoon. Precipitation chances spike today, and another shot maybe late tonight.
Alrighty, Joseph, thanks. Take a look now at your next drive. Things looking pretty normal for this Wednesday morning. No crashes to report for you right now. Take you one of those spots. Is generally pretty busy over at 494 near the airport. Things looking pretty good. Traffic moving along nicely. Roads are dry, so you shouldn't have a problem if you're heading out the door. Now, as always, we will continue to keep you up to date on the very latest news and weather developments all day here on the stream. Happening today, the Minneapolis City Council will consider a move that could help those who are facing evictions. This is Operation Metro Surge continues. This afternoon, we'll hear from City Council members who are supporting a proposal to delay evictions while ICE activity continues in Minnesota. This proposal would allocate $1 billion for rental assistance to support families that are impacted by immigration enforcement. These families are struggling since many Minnesotans are too scared to go to work due to the federal crackdown, meaning they aren't earning enough money to pay rent. The council will vote tomorrow morning on those measures. Then coming up today on Mid Morning at 9, how you can help out thousands of athletes by volunteering with the 2026 Special Olympics USA Games. We'll be back with more news headlines that's coming up after a quick break. Stay with us for that live stream of Borders Are Tom Homan's press conference. It's coming up at 8 a.m.
You're watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
7:56 here on this Wednesday morning. Joseph will have your next weather forecast coming up in just a minute. But first, at 8 o'clock, so just 4 minutes from now, we do expect to hear from the Borders Are Tom Homan. And here's a live picture of that podium there where he is expected to speak in just a couple minutes. Now, he arrived in Minnesota last week. At today's press conference, we expect to receive updates on Operation Metro Surge. Now, last week, Homan discussed a possible drawdown in federal enforcement in Minnesota. Again, speaking at 8 o'clock this morning. You could stream that free right here on CBS News Minnesota. Stay with WCCO for any updates. Also want to take a look now at your next drive. Things are starting to pick up here on this Wednesday morning. Pretty typical Wednesday morning here, but we do have a couple crashes. Want to take you up to one of those. This is up in the Roseville-Minneapolis border. So this is over here, Highway 36 westbound. You can see the car turned around, blocking one lane there. This is a busy stretch, so we'll keep an eye on it for you. Joseph?
Yeah, kind of a quiet morning around here, though. We did have some snow moving through Stearns County, Wright, Sherburne counties. And once it reached Hennepin County, things really slowed on down and started to fall apart. So I'm not expecting really much snow in the forecast. That's why we went with a red tower for today, because the larger story is going to be the warm up, okay? 15 degrees out the door here in the cities. It feels that as well. The wind is quite gentle this morning. We're all a little bit warmer. It's 30 degrees warmer and brighter than yesterday at this time. It's going to get warmer later this week. Break down at 8 a.m.
This is WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Next on WCCO Mornings, an update on Metro Surge. The operation here in Minneapolis will take you live to a press conference from Border Czar Tom Homan. Then, new developments from the Minnesota Department of Corrections, the claims they're making about ICE as they say collaboration between the prisons and DHS isn't happening. Plus, a new directive for federal agents to wear body cameras. Do they really make a difference? We'll take a closer look. And later, the kickoff to the midterm election season here in Minnesota. See the latest details and results from last night's caucuses. Good morning. Welcome to WCCO Mornings. We're live on our free streaming channel each weekday on CBS News Minnesota. I'm Maria Lizignoli. Let's get to your top headlines this morning. Happening any minute now, we're expecting to hear from Border Czar Tom Homan. Now, Homan arrived in Minnesota last week. It was then that he discussed a possible drawdown in federal enforcement in Minnesota. Once that press conference gets underway, we'll bring you there live, so stay tuned.
You're being detained. Hey, what's your name, friend?
Press reports this arrest happened yesterday morning in South Minneapolis. During the interaction, agents drew their guns at people inside a car. As you can see, they're not wearing body cameras. On Monday, Secretary Noem said, effective immediately, we are deploying body cameras to every officer in the field in Minneapolis. But court documents say that could take up to 6 months. In those documents, the St. Paul ICE field office director said they would need at least 180 days to set up software, equipment, and training protocols for around 2,000 agents. President Trump has praised the decision to outfit federal officers with body cameras. It's a move meant to bring more accountability to the operation happening here. In today's Good Question, Jeff Wagner explores whether that technology has actually made a difference in law enforcement encounters.
You got your driver's license and insurance for me? What was once new technology for law enforcement over a decade ago now feels like standard practice. 82% of police departments in the U.S. equip their officers with body cameras, and that number is from 2023, meaning that number could be even higher by now. With so many departments deploying the technology, we wanted to know, do body cameras improve policing? Good question.
It's kind of a game changer in what is expected of us from the public.
Deputy Chief Damon Bitney is with the Bloomington Police Department, which has used body cameras since 2019.
We're able to use our own videos to assist in training our officers. Things that went really well, things that we could improve upon. And so those are the things that I think, when it's used correctly, meaning the tool of body cams or dash cameras, they're invaluable.
Using the recordings to train officers could improve policing, but the main word we often hear with these cameras is accountability.
When people talk about accountability, what they're basically asking, or at least how we interpret it as this, is that, hey, are you trying to hide anything? And our position is we're not.
The little lens can be an objective witness, watching and listening to police interactions to potentially spot misconduct or prevent it by changing an officer's behavior. So have the cameras in that way improved policing? The answer is unclear. A few years ago, the Department of Justice reviewed 70 studies on body-worn cameras. The analysis found inconsistent or no statistically significant effects from the cameras when it comes to use of force, assaults on officers, arrests, and traffic stops and tickets. That blanket statement, however, would be unfair to the departments that did see a difference from using body cameras. Studies done for Boston PD in Massachusetts, Las Vegas PD in Nevada, and Rialto PD in California all cited a drop in citizen complaints and use of force reports once body cameras were adopted. In fact, a University of Chicago analysis found that departments using body cams saw a 10% drop in all use of force encounters.
Borders Czar Tom Holman is giving an update to Operation Metro Surge right now.
Good morning.
Let's take you there live.
I'm Tom Holman. I'm the Borders Czar President Trump. I'm here with Sam Olson, Field Office Director for the St. Paul office, and Ron Patello, Senior Advisor to the Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol. Us three guys got just shy of 100 years in law enforcement, immigration enforcement. I've worked with Ron 30 years ago in Dallas, Texas. He's been with the Border Patrol's entire career. During my press conference last week, I reported I had productive discussions with various state and local officials, including Governor, Attorney General, Mayor Fry, and law enforcement officials about increasing coordination in a lawful way between the county jails and ICE to avoid public safety threats being released back in the community. While we had our differences, one thing was clear: we all committed to public safety for all who live in the Twin Cities. We have made significant progress under the direction of President Trump, working with state and local officials here in Minnesota, and I expect that to increase in the coming weeks. We continue to have discussions. I'll have discussions this afternoon. We currently have an unprecedented number of counties communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets. Unprecedented cooperation. Now I'll say it again. This is efficient, requires only 1 or 2 officers to assume custody of a criminal alien target rather than 8 or 10 officers going into the community and arresting that public safety threat. This frees up more officers to arrest or remove criminal aliens. More officers taking custody of criminal aliens directly from the jails means less officers on the street doing criminal operations. This is smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement. It's safer for the community, safer for the officers, and safer for the alien. This coordination also makes it far more safe for the Twin Cities. Arresting a public safety threat in the safety and security of a jail is the safest thing we could do. Further, less public safety risks are being released back into the communities, reduces recidivism, so local law enforcement can direct their limited resources to other public safety matters in their community. This is another priority of President Trump. The state prisons already cooperate with ICE on this coordinated transfer of custody, and we thank them for that partnership, and we plan to do more with them. I also want to reiterate and emphasize, we are not requiring jails to hold people past their normal release time for immigration purposes. We're not asking anyone to be an immigration officer. We are not asking any state or local official to do immigration enforcement activity. They are not. By merely notifying us before they release them, they don't hold them 1 minute past they normally would. Given this increase in unprecedented collaboration, and as a result of the need for less law enforcement officers to do this work in a safer environment, I have announced effective immediately, we will draw down 700 people effective today. 700 law enforcement personnel. We have also fully integrated CBP personnel into the ICRO team structure under one unified chain of command. Not two chains of command, there'd be one chain of command here. Any large enforcement operation I've ever been involved with, there's one chain of command, and that's where we're moving forward. During my press conference last week, I announced that moving forward, ICE will be conducting targeted immigration enforcement operations, like ICE has traditionally done for decades, based on reasonable suspicion to question and detain. ICE will conduct these operations and transnational criminal organization investigations with a focus on national security and public safety. I want to be clear. Just because you prioritize public safety threats don't mean we forget about everybody else. We will continue to enforce the immigration laws in this country. To help execute this, we have developed and implemented a multi-agency surge task force within an operational framework that clarifies lines of effort, integrated enforcement, investigative and special response efforts. A unified joint operations center has been established to manage all operations and ensure efforts align with priorities of the mission. This reorganization also enables ICE to leverage joint intelligence capabilities to effectively target threats, as well as to reduce the overall personnel footprint and enhance public safety and confidence in the agency's capabilities and presence here. I've also ensured that officials from legal and internal affairs offices remain on the ground as long as this operation continues. During our efforts to identify and implement improvements of how operations are planned, conducted, and managed, we identified a gap in regard to the use of body-worn cameras. And this was actually raised by the workforce when I started walking around talking to people here. Some officers and agents had them, some didn't. That inconsistency was unacceptable, so we moved immediately to prioritize full body cam deployment in the city. I discussed this with Secretary Noem a couple of days ago, and she made the decision to deploy them. The plan is to deploy them nationwide, but it's a priority for the city right now. There's actually $20 million in the spending bill to further fund the deployment of body cameras. The President is supportive of this decision, because we have nothing to hide. We want to be fully transparent in what we do. The American people seek and deserve professional and trustworthy law enforcement, and I and the President expect that any misconduct will not be tolerated and will be swiftly addressed. The integration, structuring, and resources we have implemented would help ensure accountability and that targeted enforcement operations have a focus on national security threats and public safety threats, and they are conducted effectively, safely, and appropriately. Again, this is smarter enforcement, not less enforcement. For those who are not a national security threat or public safety risk, you are not exempt from immigration enforcement actions. If you're in the country legally, you are not off the table. And let me be clear, President Trump fully intends to achieve mass deportations during this administration, and immigration enforcement actions will continue every day throughout this country. President Trump made a promise, and we have not directed otherwise. I heard rumors we have, untrue. Given that many public safety threats on our communities, many of which poured across the border during the Biden administration, it makes sense to prioritize public safety risks right now. Again, prioritization doesn't mean you forget about everybody else. But we have a criminal here, a non-criminal here. The criminal has to be arrested first because they're the biggest threat to the community. My goal with the support of President Trump is to achieve a complete drawdown and end this surge as soon as we can. But that is largely contingent upon the end of the illegal and threatening activities against ICE and its federal partners that we're seeing in the community. We will not draw down on personnel providing security for our officers. I will not let our officers be put at risk. So we will not draw down on personnel providing security and responding to hostile incidents until we see a change in what's happening with the lawlessness of the impeding and interfering and assaulting of ICE and Border Patrol officers. It is against the law to forcibly assault, resist, oppose, impede, intimidate, and interfere with federal law enforcement, including ICE officers and Border Patrol agents. Doxing law enforcement to threaten them and their families because they're executing their sworn duties to enforce immigration law that Congress passed is unacceptable. And it's shameful and incomprehensible to me that this unlawful and threatening behavior is being tolerated by anyone. As far as what I saw yesterday, the roadblocks being set up, you're not going to stop ICE. You're not going to stop Border Patrol. The only thing you're doing is irritating your community and want to go get groceries or pick their children up or whatever. I talked to the chief of police, and he committed to taking swift action on those illegal roadblocks. They're illegal. We shouldn't tolerate them. Again, a complete drawdown is going to depend on cooperation, continued cooperation of local and state law enforcement, and the decrease of the violence, the rhetoric, and the attacks against ICE and Border Patrol. The federal law enforcement personnel, ICE and CBP, and other partner agencies are patriots. And they've carried out their duties patriotically, with integrity, with professionalism, and compassion. I've said this many times, these men and women don't hang their heart on the hook when they come to work. President Trump and I strongly stand with them in the critical work they do to prevent harmful or otherwise dangerous people from entering or remaining in this country. As part of the surge operation here, numerous criminal aliens have already been arrested. We've arrested 14 people who had homicide convictions, 139 people with sex-related offenses, 28 gang members. Correct me, 139 assault convictions, 87 sex offenses, 28 gang members have been arrested, just to name a few. We're taking a lot of bad people off the street. Everybody should be grateful to that. Who in their right mind would want these dangerous criminals walking around their communities? Everyone has a constitutional right to peacefully protest. President Trump and I, we completely support that. At the same time, professional law enforcement officers should and need to be able to perform their sworn duties without being harassed, impeded, or assaulted. I want anyone to report instances of alleged misconduct or wrongdoing. There's a way to report that. The Trump administration is taking violations of 18 U.S.C. 111, which is assaulting, impeding, interfering. We're taking that seriously. If you violate the law, you will be federally prosecuted. In the past month, 158 people have been arrested for violation of 111. 85 cases have been already accepted for prosecutions. The rest remain pending. We've had 9 indictments of those who raided the church, and additional cases are being worked. Additionally, I've been saying this for almost a year now. Hateful, extreme rhetoric against ICE personnel is completely unacceptable. Please stop. I said back in March of this year, if the hateful rhetoric didn't stop, I was afraid there would be bloodshed. And there has been. President Trump and I, Secretary Noem, none of us want to see any bloodshed. It is no doubt encouraging and inciting certain people to violate the law, wanting to harm and actually harm law enforcement, their families, is unacceptable. I want to say I appreciate the discussions had with the governor, Mayor Fry, and the Attorney General. We've had frank, honest discussions. We don't agree on everything, but we do agree on the need for public safety, and we do agree that ICE has a role to enforce the immigration laws of this country. I would implore the governor and the AG, the mayor, and other political officials to urge in the most strong and urgent way to ask for calm in the community and to end the resistance, the impediment, the interference, again, protest. Stop impeding, stop interfering, stop violating the law, because we will arrest you. In closing, President Trump and I would like to thank the men and women of ICE, Border Patrol, and other federal agencies on the ground here for your dedication to the oath you swore to enforce the federal laws and promote public safety through the work you do. It hasn't been easy. I know the sacrifices you made. I know the sacrifices your families make. I know your families worry about you every day. I know you've been away from birthdays and anniversaries and holidays. I appreciate every one of you. I wore that green uniform. I love the United States Border Patrol. I was an ICE agent. I know the job you have. I know the tragedies you've seen. The President is with you. Again, I want to thank Governor Walz, Attorney General, and Mayor for the candid, insightful, productive discussions we had. Again, I'm not saying we agree on everything, but I think we all already accomplished great things in Minnesota. I am optimistic we will achieve even more in the coming days to make this city safer. I would also like to thank the numerous local law enforcement officials I was able to meet with the last 9 days since I arrived here. I appreciate hearing from local law enforcement, their perspective on what's happening. I appreciate the desire to enhance communications between their agencies and our agencies, and that communication has been vastly improved. I truly appreciate your commitment to respond to federal law enforcement in the time of need. Every chief I talked to, every one of them, promise to respond to any public safety issue when our officers out doing their sworn duty and people start crossing the line and they start impediment, interference. Every police chief has committed to doing their job and enforce public safety. We've talked to a lot of sheriffs throughout the nation. We have unprecedented cooperation. I've yet to talk to a sheriff that said no. There's still more sheriffs we are in discussions with and talking to, but I have not word that heard no. I think they want to do the right things for their communities too. Lastly, I'd like to thank President Trump for his steadfast leadership and commitment to law enforcement, public safety, and prosperity. I've said this many times. I've worked for 6 presidents and 10 administrations. When it comes to public safety, border security, immigration enforcement, no one's done it better than President Trump. His success is unprecedented. Later on today, Secretary Noem is having a press conference on our southern border. The most secure border in the history of this nation because of the leadership of President Trump and the men and women over there wearing a green uniform. Most secure border in the history of this country, which means less children are dying making that journey, less women and children being sex trafficked, less fentanyl getting this country to kill our young people, less known suspected terrorists being released in this country. The most secure border in a lifetime gives us the strongest national security we've seen. You can't have strong national security without strong border security. I wish I could be at that press conference, but the president has called me here. I just had a small part in it. The reason we had the most secure border is because of President Trump's leadership and the men and women wearing the green uniform, which I once wore. I just reported, I was down there with Commissioner Scott, CBP Commissioner Scott, 2 weeks ago. We went through that border in boat, forward drive, and in the air. We toured the border in California, Texas, and Arizona. And I did not see one illegal alien. Think about that. The last 9 months, no one's been released from that border. The most secure border in history of this nation. So God bless the men and women of the Border Patrol. God bless President Trump for his leadership. And God bless the United States of America. And I'll take questions.
Sir, you said that you're getting unprecedented cooperation. Where's that coming from? Is it coming from the sheriffs? Have you signed agreements with them? Or Hennepin and Ramsey County part of that? And the 700 officers leaving Minnesota, are they Customs and Border Patrol or ICE or?
There's a mix, but that number is based on, number one, the cooperation. Again, rather than having whole teams out looking for a criminal alien who was just released, now we have one agent at that jail picking that person up. That and the operation has been successful on a number of arrests, so the target list is reducing. So with the efficiencies of the jails, with the efficiencies of the prison system working with us, and the target list decreasing, we had a whole team looking at what makes sense without risking officer safety and the security teams, and that number is 700. Look, we want to get back to the original footprint, the Minnesota footprint of what ICE officers looked like before this operation, plus the additional hires through the big, beautiful bill. A lot of these people, we got agents here from LA and New York and Portland. There's problems there too. So we want to get people back to their home station and enforce immigration laws in those areas. But the vast majority of sheriffs, there's only a few that we're still in consultation with, but this is unprecedented cooperation. So again, I want to thank the sheriffs, the governor, and the AG. I think we're in a lot better place than we've ever been in. We never had this kind of cooperation at this level, and I'm not leaving until we get all done. But I'm happy to say I'm extremely pleased with the leadership team and their outreach to the sheriffs, to the state, to the chiefs. I've talked to many of them. I didn't talk to all of them, but I plan on talking to every one of them before I leave and thanking them for their cooperation.
Are you getting cooperation from Hennepin and Ramsey?
Follow-ups right here. Go ahead.
With everything that you've mentioned here right now, do you think this operation was a success here in Minnesota?
Yeah, I think I just listed a bunch of people we took off the streets of the Twin Cities. So I think it was very effective as far as public safety goes. Was it a perfect operation? No. No. And I just told you, we created one unified chain of command, make sure everybody's on the same page, make sure we deconflicting targets, and making sure we follow the rules. And I'm not saying anybody, I don't think anybody purposely didn't do something they should have done. I'm saying that I brought a different set of eyes on this. I've done this for a long time. We made this operation more streamlined, and we established a unified chain of command, so everybody knows what everybody's doing. And not that it wasn't occurring before, but we approved upon that. So in target enforcement operation, we go out there. There needs to be a plan, and I want to make sure everybody has a plan. But I'm not going to sit and point a finger at anybody that they failed. It was a great operation. We took a lot of public safety threats off the street.
Right here. Can I ask a quick numerical just clarification? I think it's my main question, please. So 700 leaving effective immediately. How many will that leave here once that group is out?
Right around 2,000.
And what is the pre-operation footprint?
Well, 150.
150 is normal.
Well, we got to remember now we got special agents on detail here doing the fraud investigation. They're not going anywhere. They're going to finish their job. I'm talking about immigration enforcement efforts.
Understood. So then, my main question is just, we've talked to people who say they're protesting not the arrests of people with criminal backgrounds, but things like broad ICE patrols, random citizenship checks of people of color, and the detainment but no charges of U.S. citizens. So have you committed or will you commit to officers on the ground here ceasing those actions?
What I have made clear, we're doing targeted enforcement operation. When we leave this building, we know who we're looking for, where we're most likely to find them, what their immigration record is, what their criminal record is. But as we continue to be forced in the communities, when we go to arrest that criminal target, if we find an illegal alien there, they're coming. We're not going to turn a blind eye to illegal immigration. That's why this partnership and this coordination is so important. We'd much rather work in the safety and security of jail. Look, I go to bed every night wondering if every one of our officers go home safely. I also am concerned that every person we're looking for is taken into custody safely. The best way to do that is to have a target enforcement operation, a well-planned operation. This is the way we've done it for decades.
So should we expect to see no more of that?
Pardon me?
Should we expect to see no more of those citizenship checks?
I have directed target enforcement operations, and we'll hold our officers to the highest standards. Right. These are professionals. Again, these. I wish every one of you could put that gun on your hip, put that Kevlar vest on, go out there and put up what they put up with. Considering the hate, the rhetoric, the attacks, I think they performed remarkably, and I'm proud of them. We came here, President Trump sent me here. I didn't ask to come here. President Trump sent me here to help de-escalate what was going on. We're not surrendering our mission. We're not walking away from our mission. We're just making this more effective and more smart. This is smart law enforcement. Smart law enforcement makes it safer.
Realistically, how much work is there left to do here? And with this unprecedented cooperation, how long could this take, best case scenario in your eyes, to get the job done?
Look, I said it. We want to get out. We want to get back to the normal operational footprint here, but that depends on the people out there putting up illegal roadblocks. That depends on people that want to intimidate and interfere and put hands on ICE officers. Tone down the rhetoric. Stop violating the law and impeding and interfering with us, and they'll draw down be quicker. I still got more discussions to have with some local law enforcement officers looking for their cooperation. The more cooperation we get, the less rhetoric and hate we see, and the less attacks means we can draw down even more quicker. So, a lot of this has to do with assistance from the community. We want to get these men and women home. They got a job to do at home. And I think we've come a long ways. I'm actually, yesterday afternoon I was sitting down with my chief of staff, I'm actually amazed had the cooperation and agreements we already talked about and the willingness to work with us. We're doing better than I ever thought we would. Seriously. And I'm excited about getting back to the business of enforcing immigration law without without arresting people for 111 for interference and impeding. We just want to do what we've done for 30 years, 40. I've done it for 40 years. We want to get back to doing the job, and that's what we're planning on doing. And we're not. I want to keep this because I keep hearing it and hearing it and hearing it. We're not surrendering the president's mission on a mass deportation operation. If you're in the country illegally, if we find you, we'll deport you. But this is about target enforcement operation, and that's what we're going to be doing.
Last question, go ahead.
You've been talking about these filter blockades. People, just regular people, protesters are checking IDs, they're running people's plates, and they're not letting people who they think are ICE agents through. But we've seen Minneapolis Police Department roll by and ask these protesters, are they doing okay, and they let these things stay up for extended periods of time. What do you make of MPD's lack of action on this matter?
When I was away to where the roadblocks yesterday, I called the chief of police, and he went and disbanded them after I got off the phone with him. He has promised to take enforcement action. It's illegal. You can't do that. And again, a message to those folks, what are you doing? You really think you can stop an ICE and CBP from doing the job? It's a joke. Only people you're hurting is your own community who wants to go and get groceries, pick up the dry cleaning, or go to work, whatever. You're just hindering them. Stop. Stop.
I just have a quick clarification on the body cameras. Just a clarification.
Mr. Holman, could you just talk about the targeted list? How big is that list?
Report those only have misdemeanors?
You just heard from Border Czar Tom Homan. He reiterated what he talked about last week, the cooperation between state prisons and ICE and how that's necessary. He also said they're not requiring jails to hold people past their release time. He just wants them to notify the feds upon the release of non-U.S. citizens. One big thing he did say that immediately, effective immediately, the federal operation will draw down 700 law enforcement personnel from Minnesota. He also talked about body-worn cameras and how when he came in last week, he noticed how there was inconsistency between different agents on who wore them and who didn't. He said that he spoke with the president and Secretary Kristi Noem about implementing immediately body-worn cameras to all federal officers in the field in Minneapolis. However, we have spoken with other officials who say that's going to take some time, at least 180 days for it to be a widespread implementation. He said the reason for body cameras is that, quote, we have nothing to hide. He also spoke about the roadblocks that have been going up around town, blocking immigration enforcement agents from going down streets. And he said that that roadblocks are not going to stop ICE, that they're not going to stop Border Patrol, and that he spoke with Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara about taking down what he said were illegal roadblocks. He also spoke about the people who have been protesting, and he said 158 people have been arrested for impeding federal operations. He asked for calm in the community. He encouraged protest, the right to protest, but he said to do it legally and not to impede with operations from the federal government. We're going to continue following this and have a full breakdown coming up on the live desk at 10 o'clock, as well as in our news at noon. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has accused the state of Minnesota of not honoring detainer requests from ICE, something Corrections Commissioner Paul Schnell has strongly denied. In fact, Schnell says more than 100 non-citizens currently in Minnesota custody do not have federal immigration detainers on them. He says this is despite the state notifying the feds about them. Detainers are administrative requests, not criminal warrants, that ICE sends to a state prison or county jail asking to be notified before a person is released. According to Schnell, the state carried out a review of its prison population and found 380 non-U.S. citizens are in state custody. Of them, there are 110 people in federal government that the federal government could have placed on a detainer but did not. He argues this lack of action undercuts claims from federal officials that Minnesota is blocking access to its prisons. Schnell says, quote, "When they say, 'Let us into your prisons,' our response is, 'We are notifying you, and you're not even requesting everyone you could.'" Also saying collaboration, conversations, working together to know who these targets are, that does make good sense, and that has not happened to date. CBS News has reached out to DHS for comment, and we have not heard back. Now, this is for state prisons. It's a different story when it comes to county jails. Cooperation between local jails and ICE varies widely across Minnesota. As we've reported, several counties have agreements on some level with federal immigration, either housing inmates or helping ICE operations. But many, including some of the state's biggest counties, don't have that cooperation. And that's something some federal officials like Homan today have said has contributed to Operation Metro Surge. New this morning, the Ramsey County Board denounced what they call aggressive tactics used by federal agents in Operation Metro Surge. In a unanimous vote, the Ramsey County Board called for an independent investigation of the, quote, "preventable and brutal killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy." Commissioners also directed the county manager to continue the county's response to Operation Metro Surge. That includes things like providing eviction prevention and food security, virtual options of county services, and more. The brothers of Renee Good gave an emotional testimony on Capitol Hill Tuesday following the killing of their sister last month by a federal agent.
The deep distress our family feels because of Nae's loss is in such a violent and unnecessary way is complicated by feelings of disbelief.
This was the first time we've heard from Good's siblings since the fatal shooting last month. They say their family is consumed with grief, and they describe their, quote, "desperation to see a change in ICE's tactics." Now, yesterday was also the first time we heard from Aaliyah Rahman, who says she has autism and a traumatic brain injury. She says she was on her way to a medical appointment when agents surrounded her on all sides, giving conflicting instructions. Rahman described conditions at the Whipple Federal Building, that's where detainees are being held, as, quote, "horrific."
Approaching the Whipple Center, I saw black and brown bodies shackled together, chained together, being marched by yelling agents outdoors. I continue to hear the word bodies because that is how agents refer to us. We're bringing in a body. They're bringing in bodies, 7, 8 at a time. Where do I put them? We can't use that room. There's already a body in there. You have no reason to believe you will make it out alive if you are already being called a body.
Rahman told lawmakers on Capitol Hill that she can no longer lift her arms normally and was never told to show an ID, read her rights, or told she was under arrest. And ultimately, she says she was not charged with a crime either. We also reached out to DHS for comment about the conditions at Whipple, but have not heard back.
We don't know how many others are in the same situation that didn't get a photo that went viral.
The governor is talking about this photo of 5-year-old Liam Ramos. He and his dad are back in Minnesota after nearly 2 weeks at a detention center in Texas. Yesterday, Governor Walz says he wrote to Secretary Noem demanding to know how many kids are in detention centers, where, why, and details about their rights to due process. Liam goes to school in Columbia Heights. Yesterday, the school district said 4 other students are still in federal custody. But late last night, we learned one of them will be released. That student is Elizabeth Zuna. She's a 4th grader who the district says was detained with her mother last month while they were on their way to school.
The image of Elizabeth's father will stay with me forever. I watched him sit in his car, bury his head in his hands, and cry uncontrollably.
The Columbia Heights superintendent says both Elizabeth and her mom will be released from detention, the facility in Dilley, Texas. The timeline is unclear, though, because of a measles outbreak there. The federal immigration surge has had a deep impact on the Minnesota economy. Meet Minneapolis says a recent survey sent to its partners found 80% of respondents have experienced canceled, postponed, or reduced bookings or sales in the wake of the ICE surge. The tourism organization says its more than 100 survey responses include restaurants, hotels, retail shops, service providers, and arts and event organizers. Just shy of 75% of responses say absenteeism is affecting operations.
We know that everyone has their own personal kind of decisions that they have to make for their family right now. But for those that feel that they can move about the city safely and those that have the means to do so, we're really encouraging to help support these small businesses right now.
In an effort to boost business, Meet Minneapolis recently announced the Minneapolis for Minneapolis campaign, inviting people to do things like shop locally, visit neighborhood restaurants, and tip generously. For more information, you can head to our website. 8:42 a.m. Here's a live look outside downtown Minneapolis. A cloudy morning, but a little bit warmer temps coming our way, right, Joseph?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this morning, Maria, Bemidji was 30 degrees warmer than yesterday morning. It was a lot warmer for folks up north and even a little warmer for us as well. We're starting off our morning right now at 17 degrees. Now, we had some very light snow around the area this morning. Most of that fell down to the surface northwest of Hennepin County, so Wright County, Sherburne County, Benton County, out through Stearns County. It really wasn't enough to mess with the commute too much, but we've even had some reports of some freezing drizzle in southwest Minnesota and some very light snow there. That could have made things a little slippery. I am anticipating some sun breaks for a little while, all right? Maybe late morning into early afternoon before our next deck of clouds starts moving on in later tonight. And that's going to bring in another shot for some snow. So we have a few little disturbances to discuss, but there's not going to be anything that's going to be a large hitting system coming up, okay? I think the larger story is going to be the warmer weather. Okay, the headlines. I mentioned some patchy areas of light morning snow that is coming to an end, so we will wrap that up here shortly. A few snow chances. They're going to be limited over the next couple of days, or they're either going to be out of our area altogether, and we're not going to have to worry about it. But I'll show you that in the models here in just one moment. We do have that warmer pattern moving on in, and I have potential for a few days hitting the 40s and maybe even as early as tomorrow. Let's get to the weather model, though. You can see those clouds sticking around today. Temperatures in the mid-20s. Here comes our next shot for a little bit of light snow. It happens late tonight, probably after 10, 11 p.m. Passes through the area. I think this is more so going to be a western Wisconsin event versus, here in Minnesota and points down to the south, regardless of what the weather model is trying to indicate here. I'm not certain we're going to get snow all the way down to some of those south central communities. That clears out. Tomorrow's good. It's going to be a dry day, and look what happens. Our temperatures reach the upper 30s. I believe there's going to be a couple 40s out there, and if we get a break in those clouds, or a little bit of time where we see some sun, there's a possibility that we can even hit 40 degrees for tomorrow. Then late Thursday into Friday, another weak system clips western Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin into the north portion of the state. I think we avoid that for the most part. But look at this, Friday at 2 a.m., 36 degrees at that point in time. So it's going to be very, very mild. We will start Friday off warm, but it's going to get colder through the day. That will take our temperatures down just a bit on Saturday to kick off the weekend. But then, Maria, we're back to the 30s and above freezing temperatures by Sunday, keeping that early next week. That means we're probably going to melt some of the snow. But with the warmer temperatures, there's not going to be as much sunshine. There's going to be definitely a few more clouds kind of hanging around the area over the next few days.
And definitely some slushy roads. All right, Joseph, thanks. Speaking of the roads, we're going to take a look at your next drive, plus a look at what else is happening today right after the break. Let's take a look at your next drive. Smooth sailing across most of the metro. There is a crash up in Roseville we want to tell you about. Here it is. It's on Highway 36 westbound. It's between the Highway 51 and 35W area, and it has caused a little bit of backup. A tow truck literally just arrived seconds ago. So hopefully the scene will be cleared up soon and traffic will keep flowing. As always, we'll continue to keep you up to date on the latest news and weather developments all day long here on the stream. Happening today, the Minneapolis City Council will consider a move that could help those facing evictions as Operation Metro Surge continues. This afternoon, we'll hear from City Council members who are proposing a delay of evictions while ICE activity continues in Minnesota. The proposal would allocate $1 million for rental assistance to support families impacted by immigration enforcement. These families are struggling since many Minnesotans are too scared to go to work due to the federal crackdown, meaning they aren't earning money to pay rent. The council will vote tomorrow morning on the measures. Also coming out today, our Women in Sports podcast conversation continues on the road this week from Florida. This week's guest is Rachel Bannum, a WNBA veteran player who is spending her off season playing in the 3-on-3 Unrivaled League in Miami. Bannum is a Lakeville native and was a standout for the Gophers and played for the Lynx for part of her pro career. Now she's on the Chicago Sky. She shares how life-changing this opportunity has been for her to play in Unrivaled.
I love being in Minnesota. I like being able to stay in my community as much as I can. So this gave me the opportunity to still do stuff in my community and then spend 2 months or so in Miami. Hooping with the best people in the world, and I'm making almost double what I made this summer in WNBA. So it's like, how do you say no to that, you know? And it's just such a good opportunity for me to continue to find myself and get better and make these amazing relationships and connections that will last way longer than me playing basketball.
You can listen to the full conversation with Rachel Bannum right now on the Women in Sports podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the episode on YouTube. Coming up today on Mid-Morning at 9, how you can help out thousands of athletes by volunteering with the 2026 Special Olympics USA Games. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back.
You're watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
8:55 now here on this Wednesday morning. A little bit warmer today for us.
Yeah, it's going to be hopeful for the mid-20s this afternoon, and it's only going to get warmer as we go into tomorrow. But for today, that is where we're probably going to stall out. We've had some clouds